You find yourself just as dusk settles on a remote village beneath a heavy winter sky. No machines hum in the distance. No electric glow spills from windows or distant roads. Instead, the breath of cold air brushes your cheeks, faint, crisp, and immediate. Your shoulders slowly drop. Your breath begins to steady, lengthen. Before you, a cluster of mud brick houses rests under snow's gentle weight. Their thatched eaves droop with frost. The scent of damp earth mingles with faint traces of fire smoke curled low above chimneys. Around you, the thin sound of settling mortar and distant sheep huffing fades into the hush. You sense the rough texture of woven hempen ropes hanging on a nearby post. Cold seeps into your fingers despite thick gloves, a tender reminder of the night's presence. Near one hut's door, a child's slow breathing rises and falls, a soft tether to the warmth inside. You remain still, the quiet deepening. A clay jar, half buried in coarse ash, holds smoldering embers from the fire pit within. The fire pit's hearthstone sits at the floor's center, cracked faintly from 7 winters past. Its pale, scattered glow holds whispered stories. The hearth's glow has been replaced many times. A faint orange gleam pulses faintly through a small window, making patterns on frost-laced glass. Smoke holes in the roof are angled just so, off-center to shield from rain, their design centuries old. You sense the balance crafted by hands long gone, the weight of usefulness and care. Your feet press gently on uneven stone paths between the huts, stones worn smooth by many winters. Faint footprints trail in the fresh snow, some blocked by light trails of soot from chimney breath. You notice a thin wisp of juniper smoke curling from a neighbor's fire, carrying resin and earth. A dog stirs nearby, rising slowly, circling the yard thrice before settling at your feet again. Its fur ruffles softly as it exhales a warm puff into the cold, then sighs into stillness. The village breathes quietly beneath the folding shadows. Lanterns made from scraped animal hides glow dull against the deepening night, barely stirring the dark. Inside one house, a grandmother's mending needle flickers in the mild flame, catching light once and then slowing. Her motion is purposeful yet gentle, stitching thread into worn wool by the hearthside's comfortable glow. The scent of bone broth simmers faintly from a black iron pot, its comforting heaviness filling the air. Smoke from the fire twists upward, smelling earthy and faintly sweet with malted barley. You feel time soften its edges here, the small order of night undisturbed. The cold seeps beneath weathered, kerf-cut beams to settle in corners where shadows lie. You touch the rough wall of dried clay, cool and mottled with patches of faded ash. The trundle bed in a corner is low, tucked beneath a rough wooden shelf of stones and still clay jars. You imagine the strict order of sleeping arrangements here. Oldest near the firelight, youngest nestled lightly inside. Every detail slows, the thick wool blankets rolled tight and woven to catch every breath of chill. The village waits beneath its insulating stillness. Outside, snow muffles footprints, softening the edges of the world under a pressed wool sky. The subtle creak of timber settling disturbs a silence thick with cold and growing stillness. Lantern shadows flicker briefly before fading, beeswax candles near spent, their wax pooling unhurried and melted. A faint salt tang from the frozen river drifts faintly on the night air, distant and unhurried. Your fingers brush the worn leather thong of a door latch, cold but smooth from years of touch. The familiar chill settles gently about you, steady and calm. A bowl of dried millet rests beside a small hearth, its surface flecked faintly with ash and crumbs. The coarse grain promises simple sustenance, its earthy scent mingled gently with chamomile tea's pale steam. Nearby, a hemp sack bulges with dried herbs, tied tightly with fragrant juniper branches. The household smells settle into your skin. Fermented hay, damp leather, and soft wool from blankets nearby. Your limbs release tension, folding into the slow rhythms of the cold night. Outside, the frost thickens like a steady bloom on the thatch roof. You pause at the threshold of the village's outer fence. The chill feels deeper here, unsettled and broad. Smoke from distant fires dissolves faintly into the dark, mingling with the scent of fir branches crushed underfoot. The scent of broken river ice melds with softened earth beneath your boots. Sound is thin now. A distant mill race halts beneath frost, leaving silence like a cold pool. You fold your hands, feeling a faint pulse from cold toes resting beside dry, fluffed wool. The rhythm of night breathes steady and sure. Inside a mud brick home, the walls radiate muted heat from the lingering warmth of the daytime sun. The low fire pit, cooled now, rests in the floor's center, its stones blackened and rough. Smoke holes overhead drift thin gleams of fading light, shaped to keep rain from trickling inside. You settle beside a pile of rolled sheep's wool, layered thick and mild against the earth floor. A basket of dried beans and a clay pot of salted meat remind you of silent survival. The world outside slips further toward silence. You lean against a doorway where tightly woven wool curtains block drafts from the cold. Heaps of lye-washed wool, dense and heavy, lie folded on a wooden bench nearby. A child near the hearth stirs briefly, turning slowly in sleep and drawing closer to another's heat. The smell of tallow hangs faint, stuck lightly to the air in layers of amber and dust. Your breath fills and empties with a slow, easy cadence, joined to the quiet pulse of this place. No hurry, no light, only the muted dark folding round. The sound of the kettle's faint ticking holds a gentle permanence as it cools on the edge of the hearth. A patched wool sleeve brushes past your arm, soft as folded clouds caught within the faint glow. The simple arc of woven leather thongs crosses the floor, resting from a day's use. You feel the neat weight of undisturbed ash settled cold against the hearth space. Light dims further in the small room as night deepens without motion or complaint. You remain folded in the steady hush just beyond time. In a corner, rough-hewn wooden pegs hold bundles of drying herbs, a faint earthiness rich with sage and thyme. Their dried leaves drag softly against each other in the faintest draft that shifts past the fire pit. Outside, the snow thickens into broad swaths, blurring the edges of each small roof and stone. The muted crunch of frozen earth under pale boots, faint and rhythmic, marks steady passage of moments. Your limbs press gently into the woven coverlet, thickness heavy and fragrant with sheep's lanolin. Cold knuckles relax, arteries steady with measured ease. The dim sparkle of stars presses through frost-encrusted window panes, silent and slow. The wax drips from a tallow candle pool in jagged puddles on a shallow clay holder. A grandmother's hand rests still before rising once more for a stitch, the thread thin and pale. Her voice is still and steady, cooing mild phrases that echo faintly through walls of hardened clay. Smoke threads trail upward from dying embers, colorless and unhurried. The village rests within its careful bubble of muted life. You lean into the darkness near a rough oak table, scarred by years of gathering and preparation. A small iron pot cools with a single soft click against the stone floor, echoing briefly and fading. Sandals made from thick leather thong lie abandoned beneath a low shelf, dusted with powdery snow from daytime. You sense the touch of moisture beating on glass, unhurried to vanish beneath whispered warmth inside. A simmering draught of nettle tea releases a faint bitterness cut by honey's softness across the tongue. Your heartbeat slows, synced to the settling mortar and softened breath of the house. A faint halo of frost rings the key in the door latch, cold and steady on weathered wood. Smoke from pine torches dissolves lazily along the eaves, scent flowing measured like settling earth. The old dog rests soundless now, paws tucked beneath thick fur on a frayed woolen blanket. The night composes itself, folded around stone and wool, around bodies leaning toward sleep. Inside, the fire pit's absence shapes warmth in stillness, held in shadows where light recedes. You remain wrapped in the muted pulse of cold earth and sweat-damp wool. An earthenware bowl of soaked barley cools slowly on a rough plank, grains swelling pale and tight. A single thread of smoke drifts past the open window, mingling with the sweet sharpness of stored apples. Hempen rope coils neatly against a wall, glimpsed near a bundle of flax drying on rough planks. The scent of baked bread starter lingers faint, hidden beneath layers of cold and ash. Your senses soften around wool-lined doorways, where breath trails drift slow and wide. The measured rhythm of ancient survival hums beneath the hush. Memory folds gently around the simple acts here, the unspoken order of nightly preparation. A low chorus hums from the cold, the breath of bodies pressing close beneath shared blankets. A hand pulls a thick woolen shawl tighter about shrinking shoulders near the hearth. Firelight grazes a cold cheek before fading to a pale, humming dimness beyond the walls. You feel the mild weight of stones beneath floorboards, cold but ancient and steady. The night pulses quietly like distant, patient river stones slipping together. You find yourself deeply settled amidst the thick wool blankets, layered gradual on wooden beds. Hands folded patiently near soft necks, the scent of tallow candles and damp earth low and steady. A small jar of embers, wrapped tight in ash, rests under a sleeping infant's cot to coax a morning spark. The muted outline of frost clings to the glass of an unlit window, light, dim, and blue. A faint taste of salt and smoked meat lingers on cool lips. The absence of fire heat reveals other rhythms, heartbeats, steady breaths, wool warmth trapping slow life. The distant sound of the river fades into weightless silence as bodies drift into shifting dreams. The evening's last ashes settle into faint powder beside the cold embers trapped in clay. Your fingers touch the rough strand of hempen rope folded carefully beside you. The house exhales a faint musk of earth and wool, deep-rooted and unmoving. Noise shrinks away with every shared breath, folds into the hush before sleep. You rest, tethered to the steady, unhurried pulse of the night's cold embrace. You settle deeper into muted repose, the cool weight of wool pressing quietly around limbs. A faint click marks the shifting of a dry stone outside, a nearby path shifting slowly in the frost. A scent of juniper smoke lingers low as a whispered memory, warm and gradual. The muted scrape of a sled on packed snow drifts faint and indistinct, far enough to soften it. Your spine unwinds gently as frost patterns lace the glass in fragile etching. The hushed breath of the village folds around your resting form, steady and calm. Near the hearth, the flicker of flame is gone. Only the rough, cold stone remains. Your body nestles heavy beneath layers of woven wool, each thread thick with quiet. A child breathes in shallow rhythms near the center of the hearthside space. Outside, the sky deepens to cool indigo, the moon's pale light brushing softly over frozen rooftops. Your skin feels the faint prick of cold through the wool, steady and unthreatening. The night hugs you without movement, without sound, but for measured breath. The cold embraces slowly, settling like pale ash across those worn, kerf-cut beams. The faint scent of dried sage dusts the air, light as distant dust motes floating through the dim. Your eyes drift beneath thick lids, heavy and slow. A soft breeze slips through chinks in the wall, a whisper of frost caught between walls. The settling stones murmur low, with weight held sideways beneath snow and time. The steady hushed folds like scattered straw in the cool shelter. Muted steps seem to float near the outer door, endless and gentle as the falling snow. Your body feels heavy against sleep, weight softened and spread like wool on cold earth. A single light from a tallow candle dims, its flame a gradual breath in the deepening dark. A narrow alley outside waits, still and untouched, coated with faint, undisturbed frost. Your limbs grow softer beneath layers, slowed gently by the cold earth beneath. The air holds only stillness, rising steady as the silver moon arcs pale above. Inside, the rough surface of the hearthstone calls quietly, with deep shadows, cold and settled. Your fingers brush the faint ridges of a bone needle resting on worn wood nearby. The scent of malted barley drifts muted and sweet from a vessel sealed against frost. A woolen shawl curls silently beside sleeping forms, rolled to trap the slightest breath of heat. The body contours ripple slow beneath thick blankets, folded and tight. The pulse of the earth, the pulse of the night, settle together. The moonlight shifts faintly on the frost, petals of pale cold unfolding steady across window panes. A mother's dim murmur fades, threads of lullaby caught in thin air, delicate and sparse. The outside wind murmurs low, threading through the shingles without pause or change. Your pulse slows beneath woven thickness, steady and gradual as stones sunk beneath ice. The breath of winter hovers, weightless and long, soft against skin sealed in woolen layers. Ash and earth meet in stillness, wrapped easy, folded deep. A faint glow lingers on the hearth's night-black stone, the residue of a long-gone flame. Your head rests heavy, cradled by the thick layers of folded wool, softness against coolness. A patch of frost clings stubbornly to the ledge outside, etched faintly in the moon's pale glance. You notice the muted tapping of a single icicle melting, drops falling slow and measured. The scents of juniper and smoke mingle dimly in the air. No urgency, no change. Space folds around you, steady and steady, like river stones settling firm beneath ice. Your skin feels the wool about it, dense and insulating, trapping breath with gentle care. The cloak of night deepens almost imperceptibly, darkness thickening into smooth quiet. Your body hums quietly with the rhythm of the cold trapped safely inside thick walls. A steady, steady warmth rises faintly from woven blankets pressed beneath limbs. The air moves barely, a breath of cold against your cheek, pale and comforting. Sleep drifts nearer, unfolding slow petals of unspoken rest. Softly now, the familiar hum fades further, becoming a muted shadow of steady calm. Your form rests softened into linen and wool, layered thick against the creeping night. A subtle scent of tallow and dried herbs floats low, blended with the distant frost. The heartbeat quiets, measured to gentle pulses, beneath layered fabrics and cool skin. The world folds inward, edges blurring beneath layers of muted breath and wool. You move little, held safe within the hush of heavy winter's pause. The drafts around the fire's absence cool gently, brushing with a weightless persistence. A faint creak whispers from timber joints, softened by snow's muffling embrace. Your limbs release tension, sinking steady and deep into stillness, mild as old wool. The scent of sealed earth from beneath floorboards lingers, cold and steady beneath scent of hay. Your body rests heavy beneath layered blankets, pulsing in easy, muted rhythms. The night keeps patient, draping calm across the small, dark space. A thin click, an iron pot cools quietly on the edge of the remaining cold hearth. Your senses fold inward, each breath slowing, steady like melting ice in winter sun. Layers of wool press easy about your form, a muted weight, firm and familiar. Each moment slips slower, trailing the faint sifting sound of frozen leaves unseen. The murmur of frost at the window dissolves into a silence pulled wide and slow. Your senses dull gently, closing beneath the muted, steady flow of cold earth. You find yourself at rest with the smooth, cold texture of ash layered carefully beneath you. Faint breath patterns trace gradual curves in cooled air, soft and pale against dark wood. The cool scuff of bark shifts slowly beyond the window frame, measured and slight. The woven patterns of thick wool count out rhythms unhurried enough to disappear. Your pulse smooths to faint, even beats under blankets folded to trap still earth's breath. The house hums low beneath layered roofs, old and heavy, quiet and settled. The thin scent of bale remains from hearthwood, cooled now in its still place. Your eyes fall heavier against the muted blue chill traced across frosted panes. Outside, the night's slow breath weaves through the stalking of frozen grasses, hushed and unseen. You remain tucked within thick walls and layers, the faint heat of sleeping bodies near. Sound dims to the soft exhale of settling stones and gradual breaths side by side. The air itself seems stretched thinner, folded smooth as silk beneath the snow. Amid the steady ranks of still, the day fades fully, a dull pulse shifting deep. An unhurried scent of damp wool and earth surrounds your resting form, folded like a tide. The hushed scrape of a single broom draws faintly near the wooden threshold. Your hands rest idle, heartbeats pressed light against the cool surface of ice within reach. The body's pulse turns inward beneath heavy cloth, steady like frost thickening slow. Your breathing deepens, gradual and even, as wool folds protect the skin beneath it. A lone star glimmers faint above the village, chilled and distant, pale as frosted lace. The wool presses thick and steady, holding air and breath in equal parts. The night settles heavy, slow as the watching drift of winter snow. The muted glow of wax from a tallow candle dwindles toward a thin flicker. Your limbs respond in silence, unsettle little beneath dense blankets and cold walls. The gradual breath of frost presses light patterns faint across the surface of glass. Your body yields gently to the quiet rhythm of night, hushed in threads of wool. The soft scratch of hand-woven cloth shifts near a window frame, calm and unhurried. Heavy muted flows across the village, unmoving, dense like thickening ice. The door latch creaks faintly, worn smooth by careful hands, many seasons gone. Your heartbeats lessen, a slow drum beneath layers thick with woven care. Faint threads of smoke rise, curled and gentle, drifting gradual like drifting snow. You feel the steady pressure of layered wool cooling pale skin beneath wool and fur. The hushed breath of earth folds inward, deep and gradual, beneath a hardened crust. Still spreads wide and slow, settling like snow upon the mild earth. Your skin senses the dense calm of layered blankets folded evenly beneath you. The faint aroma of dried herbs weaves through cool air, steady and muted. An unhurried rhythm pulses beneath thick cloth, steady and soft as falling frost. The sound of distant ice shifting rests lightly against the hollow walls. A child's small movements near the hearth stir faintly, breathing steady and unhurried. The quiet breath of the village presses unhurried and low beneath night's pale cloak. A low murmur of settling wood blends with frozen earth and distant river ice. Your form rests still beneath the thick wool, breath long and light as winter's hush. The cold presses gentle but firm, a slow and steady weight beneath wool and skin. The faint flicker of strings moving softly through fabric coats you in calm. The subtle scent of remaining ash lingers faintly, settled and dusted with frost. You drift toward deeper stillness, the rhythm slowing like measured falling snowflakes. A bundle of dried sage hangs lightly near the smoke hole, scent faint and healing. Your breath moves gradual beneath wool layers thick and heavy with old night. The faint murmur of a river under ice hums low beyond the frozen banks. The pale moonlight filters soft across woven blankets and smooth earthen floor. Your pulse measures steady as snowflakes gather, slow and even on the earth. Quietness enfolds each breath, steadying unhurried like the ever-thickening ice. The rough texture of a wooden peg holds patterns from 1,000 folded hands. Your eyelids grow heavier beneath the thin, muted glow of settling lamplight. Steps outside fade to whispers in snow, carried gently to the tipping sky. The scent of cold earth and wax blends with lingering warmth of recently crushed wool. A narrow creak in settling timber reminds you of gradual time stretching beyond the walls. Calm settles in the still folds beneath layers worn thick against the chill. A faint clicking sound marks a single ice drop falling slow from the roof's edge. Your breath deepens and lengthens, held inside layered blankets in measured tides. The distant call of settling stone blends with night's pale cloak, muted and diffuse. You remain nestled beneath heavy wool, pressed steady against the cool floor's edge. The soft odor of chilled leather drifts faintly beside smoothed river stones. The muted pulse of cold layers thickens gentle and measured around you. Your senses soften slowly, blanketed beneath wool folded thick and low. A single strand of wool slips free, tracing lines faint and pale in draft air. The dim murmur of earth settling presses beneath the weight of frost and stone. You sense the unchanging rhythm of breath, tucked beneath thick layers and wool. The faint, lingering weight of warmth embraces faint skin, folded beneath the cold. Silence breathes long beneath layered earth and woven wool. Hard light of the moon ripples slow across frosted glass shadows and earthen walls. A quiet creak of a branch brushing thin ice drifts soft beyond the window frame. Your heartbeat pulses beneath wool layers, unhurried and steady like river ice below. The mild rustle of rough wool presses faint against the skin beneath it. The scent of soaked barley lingers still in a darkened corner, cool and plain. Cold air drifts low and heavy, folding gradual across smooth wooden surfaces. A small cloth bundle lies tucked near dry hearthwood, faintly scented with winter herbs. Your breathing becomes measured and slow, folding pale beneath layers woven thick. The steady pulse of night settles beneath frozen stone and frost-flecked rooftops. A faint tap of frost loosening from thatch sends a single distant note into deep space. Your limbs rest easy beneath thick blankets, folded heavy and dense to keep cold at bay. The breath of winter lays soft and long against the skin beneath rough wool. The light creak of snow-laden branches sways gently outside, a measured lull of wood. Your eyelids grow heavier beneath the muted, steady rhythm of still night breaths. A faint scent of bone broth permeates air that cools thicker with each passing minute. The sound of settling mortar fills the space between measured breaths and wool. Your fingers tangle in folds of wool, pressed gentle against the slow pulse beneath. Silence gathers wide, a dense blanket over huddled bodies warmed by layered cloth, You find yourself folded slowly into thick wool blankets, woven tight to trap cold out. The rough earth floor feels faintly uneven beneath layered pelts and thick woven cloth. A faint scent of dried thyme and chamomile drifts counterpoint to chill air pressing pale. The flicker of a single dying ember holds its place in a blackened stone hearth. Your body presses heavy, breath steady and long beneath dense insulating wool layers. The night enfolds itself, gradual and deep as frost coating branches beyond the window. The soft murmur of settling wood and faint ice fracturing weaves through thickened air. Your skin senses cool edges softened beneath folds of woven wool and layered pelts. The faint glow of moonlight paints pale patterns on rough mud brick and dark timber. You rest easy, wrapped like a stone within thick layers meant to hold breath and heat. Distance softens further as night embraces unhurried pulses beneath Earth's frozen crust. You remain nestled in the deep stillness of cold, held at bay by careful craft. Near the hearth's center, rough stones feel cool beneath thick blankets, laid smooth and even. Your breath pulses slow, merging with the steady rhythm of earth and wool around. Shadows deepen along rough walls, pressed unhurried beneath thick layers of folded cloth. A single faint splatter of cold water falling onto frozen earth drifts quietly near. The scent of old ash lingers faint beneath the layered wool and woven rugs close. You feel your limbs sink slowly, resting deep into steady night pulses held firm. A spoke of moonlight lances through frost-crusted panes to fall mild across rough beams. Your eyelids move down slowly, heavy with the dim weight of night held carefully. The air tastes cool and barely touched beneath thick wool blankets folded finely tight. A dull tapping of ice loosens from the roof, trickles, measured beneath thatch eaves. Your heartbeats come slow and steady beneath layers of earth, wool, and cold carved stone. Stillness spreads wide, measured like the thick, unbroken snow covering the outside world. As you remain folded deep in wool and flesh, gradual warmth rises soft beneath the cold. The faint, hushed breath of the village folds gently around you, settling heavy and sure. Low murmurs cease. You are wrapped beyond sound, beyond thought, beyond awake. A single snowflake drifts slow against the bare window, dissolving faint into silence. Limbs grow heavy beneath the thick folds of wool, strength fading into folded calm. Rhythms travel unhurried beyond skin, mild as ice, melting through frozen streams. Your senses fade slowly, lips parting to catch the silent pulse of night. A faint dusting of frost clings to the edges of a worn wooden threshold nearby. The balance of cold and warmth presses steady against skin beneath layered wool. Your body rests fluid beneath the measured rhythm drawn deep into earth and breath. The muted scent of dry grass and smoke fades low, settling faint beneath cool air. Breath and body fold slow, pulse folding slow beneath soft, layered stone and wool. A low ember glows faint in the corner of a small alcove. The scent of faint tallow drifts through the chilled air. You settle into a narrow trundle bed lined with thick hempen sacks. A grandmother's needle, catching the dim lamplight once, slows, then halts. The still stitching echoes faintly, like breaths held between heartbeats. The still cold presses lightly around the edges of the room, steady and unmoving. Bundles of woolen cloth rest nearby, their texture mottled and dense beneath your palm. Outside, the pale rustle of juniper branches brushes against frost-crisped walls. You feel the faint shift of wool folding against skin, a unhurried settling in place. The hearthstone, cracked after 7 winters, waits to be warmed at dawn. Mild shadows pool in the corners, gentle and unmoving beneath the stone rafters. Your shoulders loosen again, tension ebbing into the quiet hum of close night. A child near the hearth turns softly in their sleep, nestling closer to the old sheepskin. The air holds a tender coolness, neither harsh nor biting, like silk on bare skin. Faint embers buried in ash whisper of fires kept through the measured hours. A thin thread of breath escapes, mingling with the stillness that rests like a mild cloth. The modest clay jar tucked in earth beneath the fire pit retains some lingering heat. The muted thud of an iron pot cooling marks time against deep silence. Your limbs stretch into layers of coarse fabric, dampened just enough by night's chill. A single spider, paused on a rough rafter, catches the amber flicker of candlelight once. The distant call of a lone bird settles far off, blending with the muted wind's sigh. Soft frost gathers gently on door latch and window ledge, a slow, inevitable hush. You hear the gentle creak of a rope loosened in the settling wood around you. The steady pulse of nighttime breath merges with Earth's deep and even hum. You feel wrapped in stillness, heavy and unchanging, like settled mortar on old walls. A faint taste of bone broth lingers, earthy and mild, settling deep in your throat. The silent cadence of cold mingles with the touch of thick wools folded close. The small space contracts around a body, pressed to measured, silent, and shadow. The heat of shared bodies is folded inward, old customs remembered in skin's warmth. Every small movement mild, every sound lace thin and whispered in the dark. The tread of a cat passing nearby, muffled on worn floorboards, drifts away. A distant mill race hums faint, woven like memory beneath dim, hushed skies. The tendril of chamomile simmers in an unseen pot, a low lull in the dark. Time curves slow as night's fabric stretches, deep and dense, wrapped round you. A stone cools in steady darkness, cold but steady beneath the sealed door. Your breath lingers in the air faintly, steady and light as milky fog in the dawn. Moonlight drapes thin on frost-bitten thatched eaves, pale and quiet. The gentle press of night air flows soft against uncovered skin. Muted stars scatter light like distant flickers of smoke above silent earth. You rest, blended within layered shadows folded close by trundle bed's edge. The air breathes steady, steady, barely felt against the bagged sheepskin near you. Darkness hums in even cadences beneath the rising silhouette of distant hills. Your limbs find steady rhythm within thin padding of layered hemp and wool. Frost edges dim shapes beyond a wooden shutter, touching light with a slow glaze. The silence hums mild, held by the weight of settled stone and old timber. A faint night breeze presses slowly through gaps in lightly mortared walls. The muted earth beneath holds firm and settled like a deep breath. Here the air cools and smooths, folded gently into the darkened shape of night. Nothing shifts beyond the pale moon's steady watch, gradual and untroubled. The barest sound is the faint settling of the room, like sheets drawing close. Your body rests within the hush, every muscle folding like soft clay. The dark holds steady and deep. Your limbs float lightly now. Breath beneath wool fades. Shadows fold slowly. Frost rests undisturbed. Muted steps retreat far away. Air settles thick and still. Night's quiet, wide and measured. Eyes close gently. Your breath thins and slows. The world around you grows quiet now. Everything is still. Everything is quiet. Nothing calls you anymore. Nothing remains to follow. Only the quiet rhythm of your breath. Slow and steady and gently. Without effort. You are safe. You can rest now.